were affected during that time, and it's just a lot of them, came to Texas to really get a better life, to really continue in that, industry. I know several, restaurants relocating from there to here, and to move on from that, restaurants and a lot of small businesses are really adapting to this new normal, and however, these food businesses are facing a lot of these challenges, and especially reopening. And I just wanted to talk briefly about what are some of the challenges you're seeing with the reopening of these restaurants.
Yeah, Marcus, the term new normal is such an insightful one.
Yes.
I think that we have been kind of barraged with incrementalism. If we think back to March 15th, it was like by May 1st, and now it's like
Yes.
by May 15th, and then it's gonna, so you can't be in the mindset that this is going to be over. This is really, we've got to adapt and adjust. Our lives have been turned upside down. As of today, 36 million Americans that are jobless. 6.5 million of those are in our industry. We're trying to figure out, all these government orders, the government relief programs, all while kind of knowing, the economists in the industry are thinking that 1 in 5 restaurants are going to close. So extraordinary what's happening here in Dallas. We're at 100% patio, 25% dine-in. That has its own unique set of challenges, all while we're concerned about the safety of our customers and crew. So I've never seen anything like it. I sadly think we're one of the first waves to feel the true impacts economically. I hope, we recover in the next few months, but I have no idea what's in store with us in totality for the next 24 months.
Most definitely. I've really being in that I've been in the industry for quite some time. I as well have never seen anything like this. From working in the industry, I always thought and imagined that this industry was very safe. I never thought that people could really lose their jobs in the restaurant because it was like people are going to always come to eat, people are going to always drink, people are going to always have these parties, no matter what. But this pandemic has really opened my eyes to so many things, and just when you think food businesses couldn't really go under. Now I'm just really believing that they can. So that's absolutely, you're absolutely right. And we've seen in recent weeks that prices have gone up in such a number of things. When you not only just go into the grocery store, but just when you purchase meats and seafood and everything from like buyers and everything, we have seen such a surge in these prices. And do you really see the restaurants really adapting to these prices, or do you see it just being such a huge barrier that you can't even like it's just a huge wall before they even get the doors open?
Yeah, no, I want to come back to like how at risk our restaurants are later in the conversation if we can.
Yes.
But as we focus on the cost issue, uh, you know what? I'm a big believer. I'm a perspective person. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know if the listeners or viewers will be able to see the video of this, but like if
Okay.
my hand is right here, like the closer I come to the camera, my hand is right in front of your face. It seems huge, right? Like
Yeah.
perspective is super important. So we have to take a step back and kind of understand what's happening in the big picture. I also believe if the like winds of change are blowing, we've got to put our sail up and find a direction. Like we can't stay frozen or try and flee away from it. So I think perspective is very, very important for everyone as we're going through this. On the rising costs, it's very real. We anticipate costs to increase somewhere between 1.5 to 3% over the next 12 months, which we're gonna have to adapt to. Right? There's supply issues. There's third-party delivery fees. There's extra costs for safety and sanitation, and there's costs like of doing business at a limited capacity. Like our rent doesn't go down by 75% just because we only get to use 25% of the dining room. So those are all really real. On the supply front, restaurants have to have limited, focused menus, and customers I would ask them to be okay and understanding. I mean, we're getting substitutions all the time, so maybe we can get beef, but we can't get the exact cut that we asked for.
Mhm.
We've got to move away from easy spoil items because they're going bad. We may not be selling them enough. So lots of changes there. I think if you can have a secondary supplier, you should. If you can have more than two, you should, so that if somebody can't give you X, you can get it from somewhere else. On third party delivery, the Uber Eats, the Grubhub, um, I'm going to try and stay as positive as I can, but I want everybody to understand that those companies take a huge amount of the margin and they deserve to make a profit. But when we sell something through Uber Eats or Grubhub, we may only get 20 or 30% of the dollars you pay to them. And our food costs are 20 to 30%. So we may just be paying for food. So we're going to have to figure that out. If you can go curbside or takeaway and operate it yourself, all the better. If you can stand up self delivery in a small radius, all the better, so that you get that full margin value. And then finally, there's a reality that some of the extra costs are going to get passed along to customers. I don't know the timing of that, but in our business to last, we have to be stable. We have to have cash flow. Like we're all making red and white blood cells every minute of every day to live, right? Like we can't do it. Restaurants
Yes,
can't stay out open without profit, Marcus. Like
definitely.
we need to make a fair amount, and we should do it with intensity to take care of the customers and the communities we serve. But ultimately, stability equals success here, and we've got to break even. I
Most
got really excited about that, so I'm sorry. I
no,
rarely get
no,
excited
no, it's
about
good.
costs, but
No, that's it's quite all right. But I absolutely agree. But then also, like you mentioned, you wanted to go back to like the challenges in the restaurant. And I want to go back to that as well. But what you just said, which one thing was key, is that a lot of these, food companies and restaurants were doing like the takeout and delivery services. I kind of felt like when I saw that, it was just like it was just going to be such a detriment to food companies because I felt like they were only utilizing like one part of their business model and it was only, I would say, maybe about 15-20%. So it was just like they were losing so much money each and every day. And so it was just like, how are they going to stay open and stay, keep their doors open and pay the employees and pay this and pay that? And I just know firsthand, being that, working in that industry, it was just like you were only making money, pretty much, I felt like the back end, but then a lot of the front end was just like not being covered. So I kind of wanted to maybe elaborate more on why certain parts of the model is what was more profitable and just how is it just going forth. Was that just sustaining restaurants to begin with?
yeah, look, they're kind of a couple. Like not all restaurants are created alike.
Yes.
If we look at the success stories, the drive-through restaurants are doing really well. People who did delivery as a part of their business, like pizza, like wings, those people are doing really well. And if you take a fast food restaurant, or we like to call them quick service, if you take a quick service restaurant, and you shut down the dining room and all of the customers are coming through drive-through, you can actually do that pretty affordably. Your labor actually can improve. So I think people are realizing that the takeaway business can be more profitable if you operate it well. So I think that's a factor. I think there is government relief out there. Is it beautiful or perfect? And do we love every aspect of it? We don't. But there is, PPP loans to help with paycheck protection for 8 weeks. There's still money available. I'm optimistic they'll make improvements to that. There's economic injury disaster loans. There's the employer tax credit for retaining employees. So although they're annoyingly frustrating, they're also available, and people who take advantage of them are going to strengthen their cash position to have longevity. And longevity is in many ways, this is all about getting a small lead and then building it over time. And then it's perfectly okay to hibernate, right? I have a fine dining client in New Orleans in the French Quarter. It's going to be a while before that gets reopened. Tourism's not happening. There's not enough people who have a fine dining need in the French Quarter. So those folks really do have to take their time to reopen and not try to rush into some weird strategy to make 10% of their sales, but still have all the other costs coming in.
Most definitely, and honestly, that's just so hard to hear because when you just mentioned Louisiana and the French Quarter and New Orleans, it's just like just the thought of seafood, just the thought of just so many things, good food. It's just I go down there frequently, and it's just the events, and it's just the thought of just imagining not having just the French Quarter or the some of the places that I visit not opening. It's just devastating. You just don't even know, and I just couldn't agree with that. But
Well,
if
I would say the resilience of the people of New Orleans is unlike anything any of us have ever seen. I'm from Louisiana. I lived in the French Quarter for 2 years.
yeah,
And though I know it will be odd to go back, I have no doubt in the resilience of New Orleanians and their commitment to continuing the way of life that they've enjoyed and they share with us culturally all the time.
most definitely. I think that they are definitely going to pull through. It's just another obstacle that's just they have to face, and they're just going to definitely get through it. But they survived Katrina, but they're definitely going to survive this. So it's just no doubt. But however, if you say that restaurants are at that point where they possibly have to shut their doors, and there have been so many examples on the news recently and just this week and just previous weeks that restaurants had to go under. And what strategies would you suggest that they use to possibly go from that to go to maybe possibly starting again or just going into a new direction? What would you pretty much suggest to them?
Yeah, this always makes me take a deep breath because it's just a real reality, right? Like we can't ignore reality, unfortunately. I wish we could. With that said, I think it's brave. The first thing I want business owners to know is it's brave to consider whether or not you can continue.
Definitely.
It's not business is inherently personal, especially for entrepreneurs. It's a representation of who they are, and they feel like if there's a lack of success in the business, it's a lack of personal success, and that's not necessarily true. There's some market conditions at play that we've never seen in our lifetimes. So, I think it's brave to ask the question. I believe so firmly. One of the spiritual leaders I follow says, "Look, you can be called to things, but you're not necessarily always going to be called to things for a lifetime. You can also be called away from those things. So I think it's okay. I think it's strong. I think it's strong, and I think it's important to consider. What is the direction of your business? I think we do a better job thinking about these things by talking to other people. It literally gets it out of our head, right? Like we have some perspective from someone else. So I highly recommend if you're thinking about it to start having brave conversations with your business-minded friends and family, your accountant and your investors if you have them. And finally, I think a financial hammer is super important. What a financial hammer is that person that can talk to you straight, even though you don't want to hear what they have to say, and who can hold you accountable to the decisions you make. I have a financial hammer. We all need those people in our lives to go, look, I love you, but your safety is important, and you cannot risk your financial safety trying to save something that might not be salvageable. That doesn't mean that you can't continue. So, in every aspect of life, I feel like if one journey ends, there's always the start of a new journey. When I get back from a trip, I'm always planning the next one. When I left Canes, I was starting a business. I don't think I'm going to be a consultant for the rest of my life. There's other things I want to do. And so you can scale down your business to what marketplace exists. You can pivot to a new concept. I'm working with a company who wants to go into catering, and they want to use their space for events and kind of change their lifestyle, but still kind of stay in the business. You can partner with other people. That's happening a lot. I work with a group that sells yogurt and frozen sweet treats. Now they're partnering with a pizza company because they're delivering a ton. They're stocking their freezers with frozen goods, and that pizza provider is actually delivering for them. And then finally, you can sell and you can transition to something completely new. I think you talk to your advisors and you see what's in your heart, and you make that decision based on logic and your own value set. And it's a brave thing to do. It's a hard thing to do, and I think a number of people who don't take those steps are going to be traumatized by the process.
Most definitely. And now that we're getting into the summer months, I feel that a lot of the frozen treat companies like the ice cream places and all um, shall do well. But there's going to be a lot of adjustments, especially with a lot of the um, restrictions. With the beaches, there's a lot of one of the things that was huge for me, and I did this. Maybe a couple of summers ago is that I started my iced tea company, and I was able to do a lot of random events all around Texas, especially in San Antonio. And with that, there's a great deal of such gratitude from customers that really came to show me, a lot of love, a lot of respect. Just really wanted my services and everything, and so now it's just really thinking about how do I expand from that. Do I really go into that direction? And so that's just one thing that I really think about for definitely going forth. And I couldn't agree with you more. And besides that point, I really want to say with restaurants, it's like, what is, you know, next for them? It's like when we go into fast food places now, and we've seen this, previous years and saw this a long time ago, it's like you see a lot of these self service kiosks, you're seeing a lot of self service. Are we necessarily going to see a lot of the customer service aspect going away? Because nowadays you go into like, take for example McDonald's and Taco Bell, you don't necessarily see that interaction at the front counter anymore. You see a lot of them in the back. And is that a trend that we are going to see going forth?
Oh, such a good question. A couple, first, I'd say something on tea. Nothing is more comforting than sweet tea to me. And if it didn't look, I have water here, but if not, it would be iced tea. And people want nostalgia and people want comfort.
Yes.
They also want alcohol right now. People are drinking a lot more for probably obvious reasons. So
Yeah.
I think there's absolutely kind of beauty in the summer for that. And I would definitely lean into it just in new and unique and different ways. I'm very confident that customers are going to return to our dining rooms. I think what's going to happen on service, to your point, like self service is going to be a very oddity. Like you already see it now. If you self service in the grocery store, it's now containerized and it's grab it and take it. Golden Corral is operating restaurants today. But what's happening is you're asking for it and they're serving it. So there's actually like a higher level of service at Golden Corral on that buffet model. So we're not going to be self-serving ourselves.
Oh
I think
wow.
what's going to happen, here's my guess, and this is totally a guess, is that we're actually going to see clean and safety and sanitation as a substitution for service. Like I'm going to rate your sanitation practices as important as value and as important as quality. And I'm going to see that as service. So, I mean, I had this experience over the weekend. I went to two different restaurants and had two dramatically different experiences. I'm a little bit more informed, so I know what they should be doing. I'm not calling anyone out. But in one case, I will never go back to that restaurant again because they were not taking care of the safety of their crew and the safety of their customers, and it infuriates me. On the other hand, a company had QR codes, made me use sanitizer at the door, was strictly following the guidelines, had everybody in mask, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm doubling down on this company because they're doing an amazing job. So we need to see improvements in safety and sanitation. You and I have been in the industry a long time. We know a dirty restaurant when we see it. We know a
Hmm.
clean restaurant when we see it. We aren't going to be going to dirty restaurants. That's going to be a very important criteria to people. And so we're going to look for that service in different ways, but it's still going to be there. We're still going to want relationships with independent operators. If I say anything today, the most important thing I say is please support your local restaurants. The Chick-fil-A's, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, Domino's, they're going to live, they're going to survive, but the independent operators need you to go by and take away or sit in and do dine in if you're healthy and you feel safe about it. Because we want those people to stay around. And unfortunately, more of the independent operators are going to get hidden cash positions and not be able to survive. And the big operators are going to stick around, but we're going to have, what they can offer when you try to scale something up to 600 locations. So, sorry, hopefully I didn't ramble too much
No,
there,
no,
but
no. It's good. I'm glad that you really explained in detail about that, about what you really see going forward. Because I think people need to really realize that things are just not going to be the same in some ways, but we're definitely going to get back into being able to dine again, be able to be together, being able to drink and party together. But it's just going to take really some time. Um, Definitely to get to that point. And what you just said is just definitely, I really didn't think about being able to rate the sanitation. Now, you do get, surveys. Definitely one of my favorite places is Whataburger, and they give me, email me surveys every time that I've used the app. To order food. And so I always was able to rate the quality and service and just the atmosphere of the whole entire restaurant each and every time. So I do see that kind of really taken to the next level in your aspect. I really do. And so with that, I really want to say there are some restaurants that really have come out during this pandemic with really not a lot of issues, not a lot of things that really affected their bottom line. And were there any restaurants like small and pop or big restaurants that had any success stories during this pandemic? And I know it's been hard, but there are some stories that you just really don't hear on the news or just locally about what strategies they have used to really get creative during this process. So, were there any places that that have dealt with this situation?
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's really important that we all know that there are some great success stories out there. And by and large, it's a bleak picture, but it's there are some people doing some exceptionally good things out there. On the large scale, Texas Roadhouse just has public financial information available, so we can see what they're doing. They went from $8,700 in takeout a week to $55,000 a week in takeout.
Oh,
So it's very possible. And look, I know you're saying, hey, that's a huge chain. They have a lot of resources, 100%. I know those folks that are operating that company and they do a phenomenal job. Their local operators is the same. I would say Cinco de Mayo was so successful. This goes back to we're still drinking a lot. Cinco de Mayo was successful beyond expectations to the point that it broke a lot of Mexican restaurants with the sales and the demand. We're seeing people sell out of their daily specials if they're doing daily specials. We're seeing people pivot and turning into grocery stores. We're seeing, I had a client in 2 hours did $7,000 of sales for their dinner, on a Saturday, but they made a whole event. Like people are making drive-throughs. Like I'm just so amazed at the creativity and the ambition and the drive. It's the hardest working people in the world. It's the most friendly people in the world. When I grew up in South Louisiana, we said there are good people. The restaurant industry is full of good, hardworking people across the board, and they're doing some amazing things. And I hope we continue to support them.
oh wow.
Oh.
Now, there's one question that I wanted to ask that's, previous not stated, but there's one concept that I'm just really fascinated by that people been, pretty much experiencing, especially in New Orleans and I'm in Texas, and it's called the pop-up restaurants. And so I just really wanted to get a glimpse of like, will you be seeing a lot more of that going forth? Because it's just such a creative concept, and I just something that I've never really um, saw back home in Maryland, but I've been seeing it a lot down here, and so really just wanted to get a glimpse of like, are we going to see more of like the pop up bars, maybe like pop up creativity theme restaurants like here today, and then maybe they might travel to another place. I mean, are we going to see more definitely creativity?
Yes, I think so. I'm very optimistic about this. What I'd say is I think we're going to see more intimacy in those kinds of events. So we can't, we can't do these like massive events with 50 people at them. So, but we're also going to have a workforce that is looking to make, a living. They're going to be looking to live into their new calling. Maybe they lost their job working at one of those independent restaurants, and they're going to be I've already seen. I'm in a couple of Facebook groups with restaurant industry people, and they're already doing like they're delivering Easter eggs to people's houses. They're doing all these cool creative things, and they're like, look, I just want to work. I want to do something really cool and fun and work hard. So they did Mother's Day basket. I think we're going to see intimate versions of those. So I think we're going to see more like 10 people or less, maybe 20 people or less. It's not going to be free for all. So I expect to see more of that. I think pop up where you kind of just come and go is probably not going to be realistic for the next 12 months.
Yeah.
Um, but people are going to feel very safe, like doing a backyard party where everybody's socially distanced and it's like 10 or 15 people. I think that all has a lot of possibility, and I hope we see more of it. And I have no doubt that whatever you love about pop-ups, the restaurant industry is going to find a way to blow your mind to the next level within the parameters have been set to keep you and their team safe.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Now, if restaurant owners and definitely people that are looking to really get into the business and really looking to strategize, with you and to really just pretty much pick your brain, where can they definitely find you and definitely get more information from you?
But thank you for the opportunity to share that. My website is Consult to Grow. So it's consult. So it's two T's. So it's CONSULTTO grow. Or you can do consult and the number two grow.com. Jamie J. Griffin on LinkedIn, on Twitter, anywhere. I'm on Facebook with Consult to Grow. I'm on LinkedIn with Consult to Grow. I have COVID-19 resources on my website. So if you go to consulttogrow.com, there'll be a COVID-19 link, and every resource that I think is worth seeing or reading is linked there. And if you sign up for my newsletter, I'll let you know when I'm doing things like this interview or webinars. I have a webinar with the California, Florida, and New York restaurant shows on Monday at noon. That information's on LinkedIn and other places. It's going to be awesome. We're going to be talking about how to restart your restaurant with a good friend of mine named Kathleen Wood.
Oh, looking so forward to that. I definitely had read your articles, and definitely I was inquiring definitely if you had did more of these webinars, because it's definitely something that we need, especially now, because it's like some people just are so used to doing things in a particular way for so long, and then when a pandemic or a crisis happens, they got to really rethink in a new way. And so I think it's really good to being able to strategize with another person. It's just like if I'm going to an advisor or someone, a coach. So I definitely think it's very important. So that's why I really want you to give your information definitely about your resources and everything. And I'm just so grateful to be able to talk with you about the restaurant industry briefly. And I definitely will have you back on, because I definitely don't see, the conversation ending at all. I really see things playing out in so many different directions, because we're, seeing new things weekly, and so with the food business, and so it's just very important to really discuss those topics and issues. So I can't thank you enough for really coming on today, Mr. Griffin. It was just
Thanks for having me, and thank you for the conversation. It's been a good way to wrap up this week.
oh yes, most definitely, and I'm glad to definitely be back in the studio for all of those who definitely were listening. I am, officially back. I am the spotlight host, where we definitely interview business owners and entrepreneurs here in Dallas, Texas, and all over. And I'm just very grateful to interview Mr. Jamie Griffin. Be sure to really check out his profile on LinkedIn, Facebook, and definitely his webinars. We definitely will have him again. Thank you for coming on, Mr. Jamie. I will definitely be in touch, and we will be speaking very soon.
Thank you, sir.
You too.
Thanks for listening to the Spotlight Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, and other major podcast platforms.